somewhere in the middle of all of that you were saying, you said something about like racial, national, sexual, kind of different things. I know our world puts all these new labels on those things.
They can't keep up with all the labels.
Yeah, and some Christians yell sinners, at them, and horrible things, and then you have the other side that's like, oh, it should be loving everyone and accepting everything and just taking people for who they are. And my thing is like, okay, I don't think that loving someone equals acceptance. I also don't think that you should be out there screaming at these people. Where's your stand on that hot topic?
I have never met a person who believes we should be out screaming at people. I know they exist, except that guy in my church.
I was getting ready to say, yeah. Just that guy.
But I think they exist. But, we're sort of fighting an invisible, not an invisible, but an irrelevant enemy in that regard. It's like, it's sort of like our nation's obsession with white supremacy. Like, are there white supremacists? Sure. Are they a relevant voice in our culture? Not even a little bit. And so we can go protest white supremacy if you want, but I think fatherlessness is probably a way bigger issue if we're actually trying to affect change. Like, white supremacy, it's the boogeyman in America. I've been a person of color my entire life. And anyway, that's a rabbit trail probably for another podcast. But I think here's the issue, man. I think if we're talking about sexual orientation, which it sounds like we are, that we're dealing with an issue that attaches itself to people's identity. It's not just what somebody does or what somebody likes or prefers. It's like who they are. If you can't accept my sexuality, then you're rejecting me as a person. And I suppose my response to that would be I just disagree with that. I disagree with that because I think that you're more than your sexuality. I may disagree with your sexual expression or your sexual impulses. But I also think that, you're probably a creative and compassionate and intuitive and intelligent person. And I think you have a lot more to offer than just who you want to sleep with. And I think that's one of the issues is that we sort of make people this monolithic expression of their sexual orientation or their race or their gender. And then therefore there is no more room for any more nuanced conversation. Like there may be a black person who is an unarmed black person that gets shot by a police officer. Like, that's an unjust thing. If they get shot unjustly, then that's wrong and it's terrible.
Yes.
And that police officer should be dealt with really harshly. Now, part of that person's story may be they made some really terrible decisions in their past, and they've done some really nasty and horrible things. And so do they suddenly now deserve to be shot unjustly by a police officer? No. And I think, I think our issue is that that it's like there's a white cop that shot a black civilian, and that's just the beginning and end of it. All this cop is a white cop, and all the black person is a black civilian, and there's no more room for any more nuanced conversation. So I'm sorry, I'm getting off on rabbit trails. I've got a lot of feelings, but
no, that's all very relevant.
Yeah, but I think when when we're talking about sexual orientation and how we deal with it as Christians, I think first of all, I think we're all pretty bad at teaching biblical standards on sexuality. And I would say as bad as we are at teaching it, we're probably even worse at living it out. And I think that probably undermines our ability to call anybody to accountability when, divorces among Christians are just as high as divorces among non-Christians. And so I think and rates of like infidelity and abuse in marriage and Christian marriages are just as high as those rates in non-Christian marriages.
Sad.
So I think there's an issue with that. But I think also, we say like, love the sinner and hate the sin. And that's a nice Christian catchphrase. But the truth is, I think most of the people I've known who say that are much more interested in hating the sin than they are loving the sinner. And so you may go out and want to protest or, legislate or bring some sort of correction, post a Facebook post, whatever about somebody's sin issue. But I feel like loving the sinner is a prerequisite to hating their sin. Here's what I mean. The woman caught in adultery is brought to Jesus. She's guilty, and she's surrounded by people that want to take her life. They want to stone her to death. And they say, well, Jesus, what should we do? And he saves her life first. Now, it's interesting because he doesn't pull her aside and say, hey, do you promise to never do this again? In fact, we don't know what she does after this. I'd love to find out that she totally repented and followed Jesus for the rest of her life. She might have gone straight back into bed with the man she was with before this story started. And I think that's the incredible thing. Jesus says to her, after all of her accusers leave, he says, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone. And so they all begin to drop the stones and they walk away. And Jesus gets down at her eye level and he says, where are your accusers? Has no one condemned you? And she says, no. And he says, well, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. And I feel like generally we have one of two camps. People set up shop in the neither do I condemn you camp. Like, your sin is no big deal, no problem. Or we set up shop in the go and sin no more camp. You better clean up your act. And I think it takes both of those phrases to adequately convey the grace of God, that you're not condemned, and the appropriate response to the mercy you've been shown is to turn away from the sin that got you in this situation to begin with. And so I think we've got to be graceful people. Like I think if you've got a homosexual friend or coworker or family member, that your first impulse needs to be love, and love in a way they can feel. Like Jesus didn't just tell this woman, hey, neither do I condemn you, go and sin no more. He saved her life. He defended her from the people that sought to destroy her. And I think that making sure that a homosexual person can feel your love has to be your first priority. They need to know that you love them. You can't just tell them, I love you. You got to get your stuff together. You got to show them in a way that they can say undeniably, this person is for me. Like that's what the woman caught in adultery was faced with. That she knew undeniably that Jesus was for her. He was with her. He was on her side. And then from that place of the position of compassion, from the position of trust that had been produced because of the love he demonstrated for her, then he was able to say, listen, I don't condemn you either, but it matters what you do. Go and sin no more. And so I think that's probably my first and most important point on that, is that love, it has to be a prerequisite for accountability, and not just an internal feeling of love, but an outward demonstration of it toward the person that we're seeking to hold accountable.
I was waiting for 2 more points. As a pastor, you have 3 points, right? If that was the first, there's got to be 2. No, I'm just kidding.
I got more points.
Man, I feel like if that was the case, if every Christian lived out like that, like how radically different our world would look, how better the church would look, honestly, if that was how we lived out our faith, and it was loving the person before calling out their sin, and I love that as a prerequisite.
Hey y'all, we hope you loved this conversation. Here at Young Married Christian, we are on a mission to see a gospel-centered home made available for every single child in the foster care system. There are 400,000 kids in the foster care system, and there are 400,000 churches in America. Wow. That is crazy. This is absolutely a solvable problem, and we want to be a part of it. If you want to join us in that mission, text the word freedom to 833-370-1610.
833-370-1610. 833-370-1610.
I just did it.
And another thing you can do that is really helpful is to smash the like button on this video.
Smash it like Satan's face. Crush it like it's Lucifer's head.
It really helps us a ton. So smash that like button, subscribe to this channel.
That's it.
Smash the like button on this video.